All right, welcome back to the That's My Dad podcast. We're doing something a little different today. We've got a father-son team here. This is the first time we've done this, so I'm excited about it. Zack and Derek Franklin. Derek's a buddy of mine, and his son Zack drove in, made a long trip from out of town to be with us. Thank you guys for being here.
No problem.
Thank you.
So
Thanks for having us.
This is going to be fun. We're going to do something a little different. Part of the reason I wanted to do this is because I think a lot of young guys or young fathers or maybe fathers to be, they don't have a role model to help them understand how men and their sons relate to each other as adults. So Zack, you're a married guy and moved out of the house now, so you and your dad are relating as adults. And I just kind of want to pick your brain, see if we can learn something from you. Derek, let me ask you this. Tell me about your relationship with your dad.
Well, my relationship with my dad is great. I mean, he's a great guy. He, is always been a steadfast, hard worker, there for me. Just an all-around great guy. I think he's when you guys first asked us to do this podcast, and I started kind of thinking about those things, thinking about my past and just pondering, my life as a child and growing up. And I really appreciate that opportunity because that's something I don't do a whole lot. I spend a lot of time planning my day and planning my future, but don't do a lot of time, spend a lot of time thinking about the past, and how blessed I am. And that's really the conclusion I come to, is that I have a really blessed life and a blessed family, and my father and mother are both, keys to that.
You grew up down in South Georgia,
South
right?
Georgia, yes,
Yeah.
Jessup, Georgia, close to the beach, sunny and hot.
Okay, and they ended up moving as an adult, moving to a different state. Derek's a tech guy, I guess that's what we'd call him,
Yeah, I'm an IT developer, and was working with the company that I work with down in South Georgia, and about 4 years ago had an opportunity to take a different job and move up here.
Okay.
And so I've been here about 4 years and like the area.
Yeah. So what I'm kind of getting at, I know you and your dad still spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
He lives
6
hours away, but
Yeah.
you guys see each other all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I know recently you built a new shop at your house.
Mm-hmm.
You and your dad, and he's in his 70s now.
That's
I think.
right, mid-70s, still going strong.
So y'all got together and built a shop. Did you grow up doing stuff like that together, you and your dad?
Yeah, we did. I grew up, I lived my whole life in the same house. They had bought a house, got married, bought a house, and within a year I was born, and I lived my whole, until I moved out, lived in that house. And over the years, it was a smaller house, but over the years we kept adding on to it and building to it. And so my dad was handy. He grew up learning woodcraft from his dad, and so we just always did the work ourselves, So we built on the rooms, we added to it, and that kind of stuff. When I moved out and Linda and I got married and started having children, my dad and I built my house.
Yeah.
When he retired from work, we built his house. So yeah, we've always done that kind of.
So you mentioned your granddad.
Yes.
Your granddad had the same kind of relationship that with your dad as your dad has with you and as you have with Zack. So Zack,
Exactly.
I'm gonna bring you in here. I know a couple of weeks ago you and your dad redid a bathroom together, right?
Me, my dad, and my grandpa all in
Really?
there. Yeah. Yeah. So what's Pop? 74? Yeah, mid 70s.
This year.
We cut up, part of the foundation of our house with assault. That man was the first person in there. You couldn't see anything, and he works harder than anybody I know, and constantly working. But yeah, but got them both up there. Knew they were going to be eager to come get a part of it, and we got after it. Spent a whole weekend doing that. That was a fun project. We'd redone the kitchen in there, but they're just waiting on me to build a whole house.
Build a whole house. So what's really striking to me about that is Zack, you're a fourth generation, at least the fourth generation of a strong father figure to pass down those values. And one of the things that this podcast and project is about is to build those generational cycles. And a lot of people don't really understand that so many kids today are growing up have no idea what it's like for you, Zach, not only to have your dad, but your granddad to do something with, whether it's building a house or going to a ball game or going for a walk or having Thanksgiving dinner. A lot of people don't understand really how that feels. Derek, let me ask you this. Can you think of a particular moment or an incident that occurred with you and your dad where it just really, something that's really stuck in your mind as you were growing up?
There is one thing that comes to my mind and that I still remember, and I was very young, and the fact that this incident sticks out in my mind, for all these years is kind of unique, in that, if you're 5 and 6 years old, there's probably not a whole lot you remember about things going on and stuff like that. But I can remember one clear incident. I was around 5. My sister was probably around 3 to 4 years old. And we were coming home from church, riding in the car. We were in the back seat. My mom and dad were in the front seat. And I can still remember us pulling up to this red light, a couple of blocks from the church. But prior to this, we didn't go to church. Prior to this age, we didn't really go to church, weren't a part of a church. But my parents, turned and looked at us and said, we're going to start going to church every Sunday. And I can remember my sister and I's reaction was, oh, man, here it was. Sunday was a Saturday for us, right? And so we're losing a Saturday, So we were kind of like, oh, man, we kind of put up a little bit of a fuss. But, that incident, that sticks out to me. And I still remember it clearly to this day. But after that day, it was never a question. When they said it, we were in church every Sunday, Sunday night, Wednesday, and we enjoyed it. We loved it, and it shaped us. That event shaped the rest of our life. Both my sister and I both, feel that church and a relationship with God is important, and we had good examples of that from our parents.
And you remember the day that that was a turning point.
It was a turning point. And I'm talking, we were 5. I was 5 years old. This was young.
For the sake of the young man out there who's not found a church that he's involved with, how do you think that changed you as a person in the long run?
Well, you associate with people who you want to be like, right? That's important. Is that if you don't have role models in your life, there's places to find role models. If you haven't had an experience of a dad in your life, how do you know how to be a dad?
Yeah.
Right? And the church just has so many tools, from children's events and people that you can associate with, and not to mention the Bible, which gives you the guide, the map, right? To know Jesus is to have some people in your life who are part of knowing Jesus, is to have people in your life who are Jesus, who live like Jesus.
Zach, I asked your dad, was there something that his dad did that really stuck out in his mind? Is there something in your mind that really sticks out that your dad did?
So my mom had a friend who needed this A-frame built for a swing set she wanted in her yard. And so come to him, tell him, I'm like, hey, we need to go get all this stuff. I want to build this A-frame. So all right, so we load up, and we had to drive 30 minutes the next town over, go get all the lumber and stuff. And the whole time we're talking, he's explaining to me, if you're going to put your name on something, it's got to have quality, and you want it to look good. So we do all this stuff. He explains everything, and we get back, we build it, take it to the lady. But everything he told me that day stuck with me, and just all these random things he told me really stuck with me. The exact same spot in our backyard, 6 years later, was where he was standing out there working on something, and I was like, I just got into UGA. All that stuff you had taught me right here has continuously built and led up, and it's starting to pay off.
Zach, your dad did something when you were in high school, I believe. Y'all had a little shop in the backyard, was it?
Yeah, they were actually in middle school.
Yeah, did that in middle school.
Tell us about that.
So the story is that it was coming into close to Christmas time, right? And my wife and I had gone to Walmart and we had loaded the buggies up, and we had an idea what we wanted to buy them, and we were going to get bicycles for them, and we couldn't get anybody to help us. All the wheels were flat on the bikes in the store, and we couldn't get anybody to help us. Got frustrated and just said, you know what, let's don't do this. This don't even feel right? So we just put everything back and we left Walmart. Had no idea what we was going to get them for Christmas, and then it occurred to us, let's give them a space, right? And so that's what we did. We started. We took the shop, stripped it down. Even had Zachary out there helping me. He had no idea what it was for, right? But we converted this shop into a space for the kids, and we loaded it up with, games, and it had a stage, and it had
a snack bar,
and it had music, and it had
in your backyard.
In my backyard, it had a disco ball. I mean, it was fit, and basically on Sunday or on Christmas Day, Christmas morning, they come in and they had a few boxes with some clothes in it, and they opened those things up, and they were like, great, I mean, there was not a toy in sight, and they were just, I mean, it was, my wife and I were blown away because they were just like, this is an awesome Christmas, and they didn't have a toy yet. So anyway, we drag in this big old box, and we say, here's your present. It's a big old box, and they tear it open, and there's a box inside of it, and it goes all the way down to a little box, and inside that box, they open it up, and there's 3 keys. Like, wow, we got a key. We're like, we'll figure out what the key goes to. And so they're running around the house trying to figure out what the key goes to. And finally, we give them a little direction, and they make it outside, and they open that building. And they open it up, and it's just, it's decked out. And it has all the toys in it and all this kind of stuff. And it was just an awesome experience for our family to be able, for Lynn and I to be able to give that to them. But then that playroom became a central part of their life growing up. I mean, from then till they graduated high school, that's where their friends would come and hang. It evolved over time into couches and TVs and just different things like that. But their friends, we always had plenty of their friends over at our house, and that was the hangout spot. It just became central to our family and our extended family.
Derek, what do you think it takes to be a great dad?
I am under the belief that we should work to advance the next generation past our generation, right? Provide training and opportunities in advance of what we have. But the only way you get to that point is time and commitment. You have to invest the time into your family. That's the biggest piece. You have to be there. You have to be available. You have to be willing to learn from your mistakes and move past it. And I think that's the key. Is a lot of time, and that time that you spend with your family, you're invested in them. I'm not sitting next to Zachary on the phone, playing on the phone. I'm invested in Zach, right? So being invested in your family and the time that you spend with them
is the key.
Is the key.
It's the key. I'm just curious about something. And when you were growing up, Zach, how often, you have 2 sisters, younger sisters, how often did y'all sit down at the dinner table together as a family?
We were at the dinner table every night.
Every night?
We were at the dinner table every night. We weren't missing me and my sisters all played sports in high school, and sometimes we were all going in different directions, but it still feels like we were at dinner together every single night. If somebody had to work late, if somebody had something going on, it was like, put it down, come eat, you can handle it afterwards. And we had times where we were like just dog tired, but we have pictures on Facebook of me asleep at the dinner table, just sitting there because Mama was like still prepping dinner, and I was just so worn out from the day, I just fell asleep waiting on her. So, we would have nights where we were all just so tired and worn out. We were quiet, but we were together.
I think that I think that every strong family, the one piece of furniture that should have the most sentimental value should be the dinner table. I know when I retired, we had to move off the ranch and then into another house. And the one piece of furniture that I made sure we kept, even in spite of the fact that Deanna wanted a new table, we refinished that old table because it's such a symbol of our family from the time that my kids were in high chairs until they came and had dinner after their college graduation. So, Derek, I'm going to give you a chance to do something. Your dad's going to be watching this. And as men, sometimes it's hard for us to sit down with our dad and say how we really feel. And I found that in this setting, you get an opportunity to speak, to say things in a way that maybe you wouldn't say if you were face to face. But your camera's over here, and I just want you to look into that camera. Your dad's going to watch this. And I want you to just say what you want to say to your dad.
Okay. I guess I would start by saying, just thank you for being the person that you were, or that you are. You were always there. Even today, every time I see my dad and my mother, and every time I talk to them, they tell me, the last thing or the first thing they say is, I love you. I think that's important. To build that builds confidence in people around you, right? When you know you're loved, everything else becomes less critical, less important, less of a hassle, less. It expands your world in a whole different way, and so that thank you for being that person. Thank you for being who you are, taking the time that you did. You were always there. You're still always there. And that's immeasurable. And, when I look back on my life, I will always know that, for whatever reason, I was chosen to have a blessed life. And it's because of you. And so I thank you for that and love you dearly because of it.
You have twin daughters, Zach's little sisters, and they gave us these little video clips. It's a gift we'd like to give you and show them to you here.
My name's Zack Franklin. I'm Derek's son, and what to say about my dad? The guy's easily my best friend. He was the best man at my wedding. It was easy choice. He's taught me almost everything I know. I remember when I was in 8th grade, my mom had a friend come to me and say, she needed an A-frame built for this swing she was going to put in her yard. And come to my dad, tell him about it, and me and him load up. We go to the next town over to pick the wood up. It was about 30 minutes drive each way. And the whole time we spent talking about numbers and talking about business. And he was just explaining things to me and kind of opening my mind to what it's like to run a business, what it's like to put your name on something, to add value to things. And, that day in the backyard, we sat there, we built this A-frame, and for him, it was probably just another Saturday. But because of that, 6 years later, I came to him out there and showed him my acceptance into the University of Georgia's accounting program. And it all came from that day. That is one of the most memorable moments of my childhood, was having that interaction with him. And this was a continuous thing. Me and him would go on car rides, because we lived in such a small town, you had to leave to go to the next town over to get anything. So me and him would go on these long car rides, and we would just talk and talk and talk. And it was just hours sometimes. And sometimes he would just sit there quietly and let me talk and just go and go and go. And then other times I would sit and listen to him. And, he was always there for me and our whole family. He was a great leader. In our household, we were going to church, and he was participating in the church. It was not just going there and being there on Sundays. He was a deacon in our church, and he participated in, bringing an Awanas program kind of to the church that we were going to. So when me and my sisters were younger, we would have something to go to. Family has always been his first priority, and you can tell. And that's still important to me and my sisters nowadays. I mean, he has, to kind of explain him, he is the type of person who has high school friends who would still travel across the world at one phone call. They're going to come, they're going to be there for him. I mean, he's friends with everybody, and he's just a great role model. And I'm really appreciative for everything he's done. And one of the things that he kind of taught me growing up that I feel like people might be missing some days is he allowed me to fail. And that was extremely helpful because it's going to happen in life. And he showed me that, it's going to happen. You're going to fail. But then he taught me what to do, how to get back up, how to keep building, how to, self-motivate and keep going. And that's not something I was going to learn in school no matter where I went. And I'm extremely appreciative. And that's how I became the man I am today, is just watching him for years and years.
It's really hard to think about just one thing I like most about my dad. So, to name a few, he is kind, he's compassionate, he's forgiving, he's loving, he's God-fearing, he has a heart of gold. He is the best role model I could have ever asked for. It was a blessing to have him raising us in such a tight-knit household, knowing that, at the end of the day, we get to come home to our family and we know we're going to be loved there regardless. And Dad, I just can't thank you enough for that. I love you so, so much. Thank you for just being such an awesome dad. I really could not have asked for any better.
My dad is the most amazing man in the world. He is hardworking, he's selfless, he's humble, he's so smart, he's so kind. He has everything good in the world. One day to be half the person that he is. So Dad, I just want to tell you thank you so much for everything you do for me, for always supporting me, always being by my side and being my number one fan, being my first true love. I love you so very much. I admire everything about you, and I just am so lucky to be your daughter.
Anything you want to say?
I mean, it's great to hear that. You strive for it. You hope that that's the kind of family environment that you build, and it's great for it to be confirmed.
Yeah. So, we do that for a couple of reasons. We want to bring honor to the role of the father, for one thing. But the other thing is, there are young guys who are watching who we want them to say, one day I can be Derek Franklin. Mm-hmm. When my kids are grown, I want them to say that about me. Yeah. So I hope we've inspired somebody. You guys it seems like such a ordinary story in so many ways. But there's so many kids who would just love to have what you guys have. And it's my hope and desire that you've inspired somebody today. So thank you so much for being here. It's a long drive for you, Zach. I appreciate you doing that. And it's going to pay off. Somebody's going to be inspired. So thank you. That will conclude this episode of the That's My Dad podcast, where we're breaking cycles of generational fatherlessness by inspiring young fathers to become great dads. Thank you. See you next week.